Glory Story.
Adieu Galaxy Express 999. An impoverished 10-year-old named Tetsuro Hashino desperately wants an indestructible machine body, giving him the ability to live forever and have the freedom that the unmechanized don't have. While machine bodies are impossibly expensive, they are supposedly given away for free in the Andromeda Galaxy, the end of the line for the Galaxy Express 999. A space train that only comes to Earth once a year. The series begins with Tetsuro and his mother making their way to Megalopolis where they hope to get jobs to pay for passes for the 999. Along the way, however, Count Mecha and a gang of human hunters kill Tetsuro's mother. Before she dies, she tells him to continue the journey they started. And to get a machine body to live the eternal life she couldn't. Tetsuro tries to forge on toward the city alone, but is quickly overcome by the brutal cold and wind. As he succumbs, he cries out an apology to his mother for failing to fulfill her wish. And hopes that in his next life he will be born as a robot to begin with. Tetsuro is surprised to awaken by the fireplace in the home of a beautiful woman, Metal, who is the spitting image of his dead mother. Metal tells him she had heard the entire incident with a long-range directional microphone she had been idly scanning around the area with. Metal offers him an unlimited use pass for the 999 if he will be her traveling companion. To which Tetsuro agrees. She provides him with a gun and directs him to the Count's residence, telling him that the Count and his henchmen will be too distracted with their revelries to defend themselves against a surprise attack. Tetsuro bursts in on them in their meeting hall and cuts them down with a spray of gunfire. With the Earth police in hot pursuit, Tetsuro and Metal flee the planet aboard the 999. Along the way, Tetsuro has many adventures on many different and exotic planets and meets many kinds of people. Both human and alien, living and machine. Increasingly, Tetsuro realizes that a machine body won't fix all of his problems. In fact, most of the machine people he meets regret the decision to give up their humanity. Eventually, Tetsuro and Metal reach the planet Promethium, the final stop for the 999. He is shocked by the cruelty and indolence of the machine people there, and witnesses a mechanized human committing suicide, an event to which the others react with scoffs and derision. He asks the dying man why he wished to end his life, and is told that eternal life on Promethium is utterly empty of joy or purpose. When Tetsuro mentions the name of his traveling companion, the man is horrified and tells him that Metal is in fact the daughter of Queen Promethium, the supreme ruler of the Machine Empire, and that she is thoroughly untrustworthy. Tetsuro is outraged at having been kept in the dark and rushes off to confront Metal. Metal is at a loss for words, but a government spokeswoman inserts herself into their conversation and begins giving answers on Metal's behalf. Tetsuro is not impressed and he storms off in a blind fury. Tetsuro doesn't understand why he has been betrayed by Metal, but Metal has plans of her own, and seeks to destroy the mechanized civilization. With the help of her father, Drive Ban, only named in the film, whose consciousness resides in a pendant she wears around her neck, Metal destroys her mother and the planet. Afterwards, Metal and Tetsuro return to the penultimate station on the planet of Bats where Tetsuro tells Metal his intention to return to Earth and lead it toward a new future. Appleseed. Dunan Nut, a young soldier and one of the Global War's last survivors, is rescued by Hitomi, a second-generation bioroid. Nut's escape attempt is stopped by her former lover Brurios Hakatinchas, now a cyborg. She realizes that the war had ended and she is in a utopian city called Olympus. Its population is half human and half clone, a genetically engineered species called bioroids. Olympus is governed by three factions: Prime Minister Athena Arias, General Edward Uranus III, head of the Olympus army, and a council of elders. Everything in the city is observed by an artificial intelligence named Gaia from a building called Tartaros. While there, Dunan joins the counterterrorism organization ESWAT. The bioroids were created from the DNA of Dunan's father, Carl, making the second-generation bioroids her brothers and sisters. However, they have a much shorter lifespan than humans due to suppressed reproductive capabilities. The bioroids' life extension facilities are destroyed by a secret faction of the regular army in a terrorist attack against the bioroids. However, the Appleseed data, which contains information on restoring the bioroids' reproduction capabilities, still exists. Olympus is plagued by conflicting factions. Along with the strike force, Dunan and Briareos head to the building where the bioroids were originally created. She activates a holographic recording showing the location of the Appleseed data. Dr. Gilliam Nutt, who created the bioroids, entrusted Appleseed to Dunan, but was inadvertently killed by a soldier. After mourning the death, Leighton turns against his men. They then get cornered by the regular army. Dunan discovers from anti-bioroid terrorist Colonel Hades that Briareos had intentionally allowed his landmate, a large exoskeleton-like battlesuit, to escape. Kudo then sacrifices himself to get Dunan and Briareos out of harm's way and escape to the rooftop. Uranus attempts to convince Dunan that bioroids seek to control humanity, and he wants to destroy Appleseed and the D-tank containing the bioroid reproductive activation mechanism. Briareos tells Uranus that the elders manipulated the army into wanting to destroy the D-tank, but Athena is trying to prevent them from doing so and protect humanity. Hades, who resents Carl, wounds Briareos. She and Briareos flee into the sea, killing Hades in the process. Despite Dunan's pleas not to leave Briareos behind, he persuades her to search for the elders. Mechanic Yoshitsune Miyamoto arrives in his landmate and begins repairing Briareos after receiving an source from him. Dunan flies back to Olympus in Yoshitsune's landmate and uses the Appleseed data to fully restore bioroid reproductive functions. Air Master. Behind the scenes of the hustle and bustle of everyday life in Tokyo, there exist many people who strive to become stronger by competing against each other in street fights. The main protagonist is Maki Aikawa, a 16-year-old high school student. A former gymnast, Maki adapts her skills to a different way of life, street fighting. The only thing that truly makes her feel alive is the rush and pressure experienced while fighting. With amazing power and grace, she fights opponent after opponent, repeatedly demonstrating the gymnastic talent that earns her her street name, Air Master. Eventually, Maki is exposed to a fighting league of sorts, known as the Fukumaiki Rankings. The Fukumaiki Rankings consist of the world's greatest street fighters and martial artists. The Fukumaiki ranking fights are held for various reasons. Firstly, many fighters wish to test themselves, achieving the highest rank possible and stretching themselves to their physical limits. However, there is also a corporate side to the Fukumaiki rankings, with many viewers around the world eager to watch the brutal yet awe-inspiring showdowns. Each Fukumaiki ranker is paid a respective amount for winning within their fight. Maki, seeking to quench her thirst for that pressure or buzz she experiences only through fighting and to find her place within this world, scales the Fukumaiki rankings, clashing with the world's greatest fighting prodigies. 3x3 Eyes Saima Densetsu. 3x3 Eyes follows the adventures of Pai, the last remaining Sanjian Ankara three-eyed mandala, and her new Wu Chinese reading of an immortal companion, Yakumo, as they desperately try to find a way to make Pai human so that she can forget her troubled past. Pai traveled to Tokyo searching for the artifact, but shortly after she arrived, a thief snatched her backpack and cane from her. A teenage lad, Yakumo, tackled the crook and managed to get the pack back for her. Though the thief escaped with the cane, Yakumo took her to his work, where Pai was able to get cleaned up, and where she discovered that he was the son of Professor Fuji, an archaeologist she had met in Tibet 4 years prior. The professor had been researching the legends of the Sanjians and had befriended her and offered to help her find the ninjan, only to fall ill and die. Pai had his last letter to his son in her backpack, which asked Yakumo to help Pai with her quest. Although he didn't believe his father's tales of Pai being a monster, he agreed to assist her. Their discussion was interrupted by news reports of a giant monster flying over the city. Pai recognized the creature as her pet Takuhi, who must have been released from his home in Peace-Cane by the thief, and who was now looking for her. Pai set out to retrieve him, with Yakumo close behind. However, when Yakumo saw Takuhi fly towards Pai, the lad mistook the beast's welcome for an attack, and shoved Pai out the way. Immediately Takuhi ripped into the lad, fatally wounding him. Unwilling to lose the boy she had been hunting for and just located, Pai's third eye opened, and she absorbed his soul. This restored his body, but tied him to her as her undead servant. Linked to her, he can only become human again when she becomes human. In the way of this goal are hordes of monsters and demons from the shadow world. Some desiring Pai's powers, others who seek the ninjan for their own. Yakumo can again become mortal and end his constant need to protect Pai, because if Pai dies, then so will he. Along the way, they encounter many followers of the now dead demon god Kyanwang, all of whom wish to kill Pai or siphon off her power in order to resurrect their deity and or gain immortality. Hacked Sign. The series is influenced by psychological and sociological subjects, such as anxiety, escapism, and interpersonal relationships. The series focuses on a Wavemaster, magic user, named Tsukasa, a player character in a virtual reality massively multiplayer online role-playing game called The World. He wakes up to find himself in a dungeon in the world, but he suffers from short-term memory loss as he wonders where he is and how he got there. The situation gets worse when he discovers he is trapped in the game and cannot log out. From then on, along with other players, Tsukasa embarks on a quest to find the truth behind his abnormal situation. The storyline moves at a leisurely pace and has multiple layers. The viewer is often fed false information and red herrings, potentially leading to confusion until the true nature of events is unveiled towards the end of the series. It relies on character development and has few action scenes. Most of the time, character interaction is presented in the form of dialogue. English language reception to the series has been generally positive, but some of these sources have negatively criticized the series as a result of its slow pacing and character driven storyline.